Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the mainstream media and the biggest media outlets in Australia as to how they covered the protest marches and the protests generally that are protesting mass immigration. Let me make a distinction here. No one's protesting immigration. The protest is about mass immigration. And so this is something that a lot of people are upset about and concerned about. Now, given that the government, the globalist-controlled flunky stooge Australian government is bringing in somewhere in the order of 500,000 people a year just recently into Australia, which is over 1.5% of the Australian population being brought in, or equivalent to 1.5% of the Australian population being brought in from third world shithole countries every year recently. And then that's a staggering number of people in anyone's language. But the globalists have told them this is what you must and will do. We're telling you to do it. You don't represent the people, you represent us, and this is what we're telling you to do, and you will do it. So that's the sort of the scenario that we're operating under here. And the globalists, of course, want the propagandists and the narrative controllers and the influencers to maintain the pro-immigration narrative. Anyone that complains about mass immigration, of course, is an evil, bigot, Nazi, fascist, swastika, Hitler, the normal stuff that we hear everywhere. Now that's all they've got is the lies, and more lies. That's all they've got, these globalists and these stooges. Now, why you would want to bring in so many people in a 12-month period into a predominantly white country, and the people you're bringing in are nearly all brown and black and low IQ peasants from third world countries, where at the very best 1 or 2% may be economically useful. Why would any country do that to itself based on social cohesion, based on demographics, based on economics, based on cost of supporting such? I mean, no country would choose to do it unless they were being forced to do it, which of course they are by the globalists. Now, whether they're being forced at the point of a gun or forced as in, we'll give you a nice waterfront mansion if you do what we say, that's another matter, and we can talk about that separately. But the complaints that people have are to do with mass immigration. Nobody I know, not a single person anywhere that I've ever met, has got a problem with immigration if it involves bringing in skilled people with needed skills that are needed in the economy, and that they're paid the going wage rate in a competitive labour market. No one's got any problem with that. I don't think has ever had. It's the mass immigration that's the issue. But the media, the globalist controlled and globalist scripted media, tries to conflate the two. Anyone who complains about mass immigration is simply a xenophobe against all immigration. And, we know what those sort of people are like. They're Hitler. And so just looking at the way the mainstream media covers this. Now, in Australia, there's one media outlet, which is a small media outlet, which has some sympathy to the mass immigration protests. You've got one that's probably centre in the middle there. They're not opposed to mass immigration when it suits them, but they do understand that people have a genuine grievance. So they're in the kind of middle ground there. But all the rest, the entire media scrum, the pack, that are all globalist controlled or ideologically captured or both, they're very much, again, any complaint about mass migration is the thin end of the wedge, and the next step is Hitler and Nazi Germany. That's their cognizance of things. So the protests, which again, it's a genuine grievance, the rest of the media scrum has described them in very negative terms, as you can imagine. And so I was looking at one media piece. Now they grab supposed independent academics. His professor of multicultural studies so and so and so and so, they'll give an independent opinion. But when you actually, it takes 5 seconds to Google these people, and you find that they're radical, street waving, placard waving activists. That they're not independent academics, but they're wheeled out as such. And I've got a real problem with that in the globalist control, tell lies endlessly media, the narrative influencers and controllers. They don't state now if the person supports, supports the protest, then well-known neo-Nazi fascist swastika, Hitler neo-Nazi fascist, they'll describe them in those terms. But for someone that opposes or supports rather mass migration, then they're put up as these learned, genius academic independents just giving their opinion. Now, this one person has got a 110-word piece, so only 110 words. It's a short piece that's been featured as in a headline piece in Australia's biggest media outlet, and they say far right. Far right is without a definition. Far right is stated 5 times this 110-word piece, and Nazi 4 times. And this is just for people that oppose or question mass migration. So you're a far right Nazi for questioning it or turning up at a protest. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Now, what concerns these people and the globalists generally is that this actually is a genuine grassroots protest, not like the organised, confected, paid for protests or street marches or solidarity marches or so on. If you look at the amount of people that are on someone's payroll in one way or another, that say do the LGBTQ marches or do the transgender marches or do the pro-Palestine marches or any of those sorts of things, you're looking at a huge number of people that are on the payroll, and there's very cashed up NGOs organising it, bussing people in, giving them, providing portable latrines and giving them food and drink, and there's a large infrastructure, people on bullhorns to keep the crowd all ginned up. This is a very well paid for, organised. Some of these agitators are given quite lengthy training so they can be effective as stirring up crowds and causing agitation. Now, those people, that's all fine. Any of those marches are lauded as being wonderful progressive things, and they're supported by the body politic, by the media establishment, and again by a vast and well cashed up NGO network that themselves have vast access to media coverage and so on. But every article that I read uses far right, Nazi, neo-Nazi, fascist quite extensively. Now, I don't know about any of you, but have you ever met in your whole life? Have you ever met a racist who purely on the basis of skin color, nothing else, just skin color, hates other people? I've never met one in my whole life. Well, certainly not a white person. You do find that, say, in tribal areas in some of the third world countries where one tribe hates another, you get that. But in a first world country, do you get? I've never come across in my life. I mean, I'm in my 60s now, and I've never come across one. Not a single white person I know hates someone just because of the color of their skin. Now, they may take issue with their behavior. They may take issue with them defecating in the street. They may take issue with them, booming out ghetto blasters at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to sleep. They may take issues, with behavior, but just on skin color, I've never met anyone in my entire life. So this constant refrain, racist, you just don't like brown people. That's a lie. That's a grotesque untruth. I've never met a single person in my life that just on the basis of skin color alone hates people or wants to treat them with great disregard. Not that they wouldn't have equality before the law or something like that. Now, the same goes for apparently, at least according to the media, Nazis in Australia everywhere. I mean, fuck me, you can't pick up a rock go around a corner, or look under your bed, or go go into the closet to get your clothes. You can't without a whole bunch of Nazis coming charging out. You just can't be done. Every day you're surrounded by these Nazis. Why is it then, again, at my age, I have never met a Nazi? They're apparently everywhere. And the amount of swastikas that get flown around is by the gazillion. And how come I've never seen one? I get around, why don't I ever see these? Why don't I ever meet a Nazi or even hear of one? People, that guy over there, he's a neo-Nazi, he's a Hitler worshipper, and I don't know. Okay, well, I'd like to meet that, if only to verify that the guy actually exists. Oh yeah, look, he's gone overseas. He's moved. No one can ever. I've never met one. I don't know anyone, as in personally. I don't know anyone who's ever met a Nazi. Now we can quibble with the definition of Nazi, I guess, but there are people who maybe they just put on this fake persona of being edgy. Nazi. Okay, well, what is it? What was the Nazi government? What did it? Oh well, nobody knows. You stop these college kids who scream Nazi and fascist non-stop, and you ask them about any question. Do they even understand? They have a vague comprehension of what they're talking about. So who is it? Oh, Hitler was this guy, and he was like a really bad guy, and he was just so bad. That's the extent of the understanding that you'll get. I've never met an actual racist. I've never actually met a Nazi. And if I meet people who scream Nazi when they're at protest, they have no idea what a Nazi is or isn't. And everyone throws the term around: Nazi, neo-Nazi, far-right, fascist, Hitler. So when they're talking, this is the media, they're talking about people who, again, have a genuine grievance with mass immigration. You've got 500,000 people, give or take, coming in, being committed, most of them Indians, by the way. And they and the description of people that have got some concerns about it is mainly white supremacist people, far right, Nazi, fascist. We're not taking sides here. We're objective journalists. Far right, fascist, Nazi, swastika, Hitler, fascist, Nazi. I mean, that's the extent and the type. I mean, it's the most pathetic media coverage you can imagine, and it's all obviously bullshit. But that's it. Now, the concerns that people have, again, are very genuine. Why is there no examination of Indian nationalist media, for example, where they gloat over the fact that in the very near future, as they see it, they will be in control here in Australia, and they'll show those fucking white people who's going to be fucking boss. The resources of the nation will be directed away from white people into the Indians. So why isn't that being covered? Why aren't we hearing about that, for example? Surely that would be, that's headline story, isn't it? Millions of Indians come in intending to take over Australia, displace white people and steal all the resources, which is what it is. Why aren't we hearing stories about that? Why isn't there even a question being asked? Why isn't there an examination of that? So we're looking at a very, very one-sided media coverage. If you have an LGBT or a Palestine march, then you're good, virtuous, and good little globalist flunky stooges. You oppose mass migration, you're a neo-Nazi, fascist, Hitler, swastika waving, white supremacist. That just goes to show you the lack of or the zero intent to report on these things objectively, and it should be of great concern to all of us. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.